Be led by God. You know, seminary is a waste of time and money. These are the words that I hear from my mom when she calls me and makes sure that she lets me know how she feels about my actions these days. You know, she's thinking practically. She says things like, what are you going to do with that degree? Or, you're smart. Why don't you do something like real estate? You can make a lot of money in that way. Or finally, you know, you already have a degree. Why are you going back to school? You need to be going to work. So these are the things that she says to me. And you, likewise, might hear things that people say to you when they don't realize, you know, maybe more of the purpose and why you're doing what you're doing. You might have even asked these questions to yourself as you continue forward and the work is hard. Let's explore this a little bit more through 3 points that I'm going to share using the book of Nehemiah as we think about being led by God. Number 1, look for God to lead you. Look for God to lead you. In the book of Nehemiah, I don't get the impression that he was going out, you know, to like make a big difference in the world. He was just doing his duty. And in doing that, he came across someone who he asked, you know, what's going on with my people back there in Jerusalem, in Judah? And he gets the heartbreaking news that things are not good at all. And he is broken. He's broken. And I don't know if you've ever, you know, sort of asked a friend how they're doing, and they actually tell you how they're doing, how they're really doing, and you find out things are not good. And now you're broken for your friend, and you want to act. And in this case, Nehemiah was led by God to pray. He prayed. And in the text in Nehemiah 4:1-11, there's a recording of a beautiful prayer that Nehemiah has prayed, and it's recorded there for us to read and think about, of him petitioning to God on the behalf of his people and asking God for favor, that he would be able to do something. And we know God's answer to this because Nehemiah did get favor by his boss, King Artaxerxes, right? Nehemiah he was able to receive, soldiers to accompany him on this journey from where he was working to the place of Jerusalem. He was able to receive resources like timber to help rebuild the walls and whatnot. He also received letter of passage stating officially that this is what he was there to do, and he was commissioned to go by the king to go and do it. This is great favor that he was given. And at first I thought, with Nehemiah being the cupbearer to the king, I thought of that as being kind of like a low position. But in researching about it, I realized being the cupbearer is a big deal. First of all, because of their close proximity to the king, they could kill the king if they wanted to. I mean, they could pretend like they could slip something in his drink. I mean, he's the one that's there to check it. So this person needed to be a person that the king could trust. The king had their confidence. There was loyalty there between the cupbearer and the king. So this wasn't a lowly position. So I was corrected in that way. But he was placed in this role, in a unique position to sort of do something about what was happening there in Jerusalem. Number 2, your work speaks for itself, right? It shows the character of who you are. So the king, like I was saying, the king knew his cupbearer, and with one look at his face, he knew something was not right. Something was wrong. So he asked him about it, and that was not Nehemiah's opportunity to be bold and brave and ask for what was on his heart and what he needed and wanted to do. And God provided that favor that was there. This is not hard for me to believe. My son is a teenager. He loves to play this game called War Thunder. And I guess they have competitions. And one day I happened to see him in the computer room when I came up on him. And I don't know, he just looked a little different. And I was like, what's wrong with you? And he didn't say anything. And I'm just like, what's wrong with you? Did you die? Like in the game. And he didn't say anything. But I overheard him talking to his dad later that I knew what was up with him. Of course I knew. He's my son, and in this case, of course the king knew something was up with his cupbearer. In thinking about Nehemiah's character, when Nehemiah finally got to Jerusalem after 3 days of him being there, it says in the text that he went out at night and rode all along the land to see the walls and to see the status of the walls, to see what all needed to be done. And it says also, it took great care to document also that nobody knew what he was doing. Nobody knew why he was doing that or what he was there to do until after he was done doing that work, doing the behind the scenes, in the night, quiet work that no one knew about. That's his character was showing. I think it helped him to make it and to become a great leader. One that was able to face criticism, which is my number 3 point. Press forward despite the criticism. So Nehemiah got a lot of criticism. In fact, he had 2 haters that are listed a lot in the text there. One was named Sanballat the Horonite. He was listed in the commentary as the governor of Samaria, which is the region north of Judah. Then there was someone on the east of Judah that sort of represented that region. His name was Tobiah the Ammonite official. It even lists that this person was probably Jewish because of his name. And yet they both harassed Nehemiah and his people all along as they were doing the work that they were doing. In fact, if you were to read the text, you can see just the words and the tactics that they used to try to get him to stop, including threatening to spread lies about him to the people, saying that there was death threats and let's go hide. They tried, but Nehemiah was set. He kept doing the work and he refused to stop. He refused to stop. He knew why he was there. This kind of reminds me of a situation, that I was in before moving here to Texas. I used to live in South Korea. And about 2 years ago, I was the Vacation Bible School director. My first time ever being in such a big role. And I say it was a big role because, first of all, I never did that role before. And because of the community that we were serving, how large it was and how many volunteers we ended up having, it was a big deal. Now, some people did not like the way I was doing some of the things that I was doing. They just didn't like it. Maybe it was too different than the previous director's actions. I don't know. But anyway, they didn't like it. And so it made me think, and it made me pause and I wonder. I had questions that went through my mind, but ultimately I had to decide and remember and decide. I remembered the fact that, they appointed me to this role. I was the director of Vacation Bible School. So in that, and maybe it's kind of like Nehemiah when he prayed to the Lord, and perhaps when facing difficulties, he might have remembered that, the Lord has provided me an opportunity to be here. And he's given me favor through the king to have all these resources and to be here. And so similarly, I prayed to the Lord, remembered the fact of why I was here in this opportunity that I had, and looked around and saw that there were a few around me that I could trust, that I felt like I could trust. And so I used those people for counsel as needed. But ultimately, I kept doing the work. I didn't stop. I kept going. And so I think that's what Nehemiah did as well. Obviously, that is what he did if you were to continue reading the whole book. But he also faced a little pushback from his own people as well. In Nehemiah 4:7-9, the people started to sort of outline in Nehemiah all of the troubles that they were having. But Nehemiah responded with clear direction and guidance and encouragement that they would continue. He strategically placed them in groups of families all along the wall, and he encouraged them to fight for their families. Lastly, he made it clear and plain, and practically speaking, he had them with a weapon in one hand and like building tools in the other hand. So he was not oblivious to what was happening around him, but he was choosing to keep moving, keep it going. Like Nehemiah, as we live our life and do our work, we are each also faced with the same question of how will we respond to the people and the situations placed before us that come across our day, our situation. Like, how will we respond? What will we be led by? Who will we go to for guidance and counsel and support and for favor? These are all questions that we have to sort of decide. And amongst all these things that are happening, I'd like to propose this. I propose that you be led by God. May you continue to look for God's leading in your life. Also, may you just let your work show your character to others that might be wondering. And finally, keep pressing forward despite criticism that you may receive. As Martin Luther is quoted to have said, he said, "Pray as if everything depends on God. Then work as if everything depends on you."